Sorry for ambushing you, but it's Persona 3, baby! And I am ready for it! Yes, I'm aware this is a Persona 5 shirt. It's the only Persona I could find a shirt for, I swear!
Well, except for this embarrassment, who would order this black shirt with a microscopic pocket adorned with P3 characters, which isn't available, even if you did want it? Then there's this trucker cap with an ensemble cast of Persona 3, 4, and 5 representatives. Can you imagine a stocky, buff, 45-year-old trucker rocking this hat, sitting in the cab of their 18-wheeler? Now that's how you charm the ladies. Anyway, I ordered it from a Japanese retailer, a men's large.
Maybe it's due to the size differences among countries, but damn, this is tight. Almost as tight as Persona Reload's combat!
This is our chance! Let's wipe them out!
Poor segue. I know. Amateurish and brutal. I agree. Whew, let's just wipe that disgrace from our collective memories using cheap special effect lightning, instead of doing the whole Persona ritual because, well, obvious reasons, and explore Persona 3 Reload.
Persona 3 Reload adheres strictly to the original PS2 game. It's a faithful remake that is mostly paint by numbers when it comes to its gameplay and story beats. It retains the melodrama, the humorous exchanges, awkward moments that play with player expectations, turn-based strategic battles, the addicting nature of fusing ever more powerful personas, and, pivotally, keeps the moody, dark plot moving in a linear fashion from its ominous beginning to what looks like an unavoidable, catastrophic end. Fans like myself, who were exiting their teenage years when the original came out, have looked forward to this game for almost 2 decades, and it's refreshing to see Atlus has preserved it for the most part. Fans usually respond positively to games that are faithful renditions of a simpler time.
Case in point, have you ever experienced a remade game, possibly one that you had been anticipating for decades, hoping to relive your youth? You start it up, and everything looks and feels almost identical to the highlight reel in your memory. And so you progress with youthful enthusiasm, only to see the entire narrative structure has been chewed up, wrecked, and mangled into God knows what over a period of 10 years, real time, while your inner child weeps as your fragmented brain tries to piece together both the story and what the developers must have been thinking as they took this tale that was already complex enough and completely independent and instead turned it into this convoluted mess that requires additional knowledge of the side characters and the additional games?
Has that ever happened to you?
No, of course not. Game companies are always completely in tune with their fan bases. And never, not once, have they attempted to break what never needed fixing. What an immature statement by me. I think I just need to take some deep breaths.
Anyway, let's get back to the game I promised to talk about here. While Reload's gameplay does have some small enhancements and techniques, including features from the more recent entries like Persona 5, there's nothing absolutely mind-blowingly different about the cast of characters or storyline. There's some added incentives for new players to dive back in with a fresh lens, but it's still Persona 3 through and through. Similarly, the social simulation elements have some subtle changes, but the progression and time management requirements remain steadfast within this 2024 version.
Let's take a look at 3 reasons why Reload succeeds in what it sets out to do as reload of Persona 3. Whew, wow. Oh, you gotta work on your segues, buddy. It'll get better. I swear.
You take my life, and you're going to end up just like me. You better be prepared for that.
You look at Persona 3's cast, and there is a ton to like. Are there some anime cliches amongst them? Well, sure. The protagonist was orphaned 10 years ago as a result of a horrific, tragic accident involving a battle between this hip and swag incarnation of death and a humanoid robot weapon with machine guns. Notice how casual that sounded? Just standard fare for Japanese RPGs. Junpei is the dumb, brash, tough guy who is secretly insecure and jealous.
Are you okay?
Of course I am.
Who eventually suffers a tragic loss.
I'll always be with you.
Chidori, stay with me.
The C's leader, Mitsuru, identifies as an always composed, super mature 18-year-old who acts like she's 30, but hides a tragic childhood.
I wasn't trying to hide anything from you, it just never seemed relevant.
We've got Ken, the precocious orphan boy, whose maturity level is well beyond his years. And he's endured the tragic loss of a parent. Akihiko's only defining trait at first seems to be get stronger, but he is also overcompensating for the tragic loss of his sister. Shinjiro fills the mysterious anti-hero role.
Who do you think you are, dumbass?
And he appears to be all put together, but he is secretly dealing with his own tragic circumstances. Oh, God.
Aki, look after him.
I'm belaboring the point, aren't I? You got me. Yukari, though, she bucks this trend. She's super spunky, upbeat, and filled with optimism.
My dad.
I love you, Yukari. Yeah, that was obviously poorly chosen footage.
She really does enjoy life, though. It's refreshing.
Junpei-kun is down. All right, here's our chance for an all-out attack.
She's passionate for the cause, and we later find out she loathes Mitsuru and ends up doing this to make her see the light. Damn! Why is she so invested in this conflict? Oh, that's right. She had just recently viewed the heroic last moments of her father, working as a Kajiro employee and sacrificing himself to contain the shadows in what was probably the most tragic plot beat in this story.
As your father, I was never happier in my life than when I was with you.
Do any Japanese RPG characters have normal circumstances? It seems unacceptable for them to even have their parents alive. Or if they are, they're always portrayed in this negative light. Like Yukari's mom continuously chasing men around, fraying Yukari's relationship with her to almost nothing. Fuka has both of her parents around, but they push her to hell and back with unrealistic expectations just because they aren't doctors like the rest of their family members. Wow! If there was a Japanese RPG character with a banally mundane backstory, would that stand out as being awesome? Or would that be just as uninteresting as it sounds? It's an almost unavoidable trope.
On the second week of school, Yukari spills out this entire tragic dual backstory to the player.
My dad died in an accident when I was little.
Who does this right after meeting someone?
They share a traumatic childhood, sure, but that doesn't give people a green light to gush it all out 10 days after introducing themselves.
You're all alone too, aren't you?
And this is after the protagonist just awoke in the hospital. It's like, oh, you're awake, thank goodness. Hey, our parents are both dead. How about that? Even Final Fantasy VII Remake greets this as the norm.
Are your parents still around?
No.
Okay then, guess you're all invited.
The most normal upbringing of a role-playing protagonist I can think of is oddly enough, earthbound, with Ness and his parents. And that's even with his dad only showing up during phone calls. His dad is represented by a telephone, and it's still the most normal depiction of parenting I can find in these games. And it's earthbound. That's one of the most bizarre, what the hell is going on games in gaming history. Maybe I should do a review on that one day.
So, yeah, there's cliches. However, the completely new ensemble of voice actors do a fantastic job at illustrating these characters at both their highest and lowest points.
When Junpei screams in anguish upon Chidori's fate, it isn't melodramatic. You feel that for what it is.
Chidori!
A young man unjustly losing the only person he'd met up to that point, who actually gave him hope for finding a fulfilling relationship.
It's a detailed portrait of Junpei-san.
When Mitsuru gives orders, you get the sense that she truly is in charge.
Yamagishi, I need you to locate Aragaki and Amada immediately.
I'm on it.
After Ken finally exposes his past trauma in the epic showdown with Shinji, it's as if the voice actor has somehow experienced it for themselves.
You're just going to die? No matter what? That's not fair! This is all I've been living for! What was even the point then?
It's powerful stuff. The plot spikes stand out in large part because of the excellent VOA quality.
You've still got your whole life ahead of you, don't you, kid?
If you're nostalgic for the old voiceover crew, they're actually all still here, just in reduced capacities.
Akihiko's now does Officer Kurosawa's voice, which actually makes a lot of sense. They're both all about the justice and stern nature thing.
Of course they do. Nothing in life is free. I realize that.
Shinji's new guy is just awesome, with some great battle lines especially.
Caster!
I'd expect nothing less.
We doing this?
But if you miss his former voice actor, you'll hear plenty of him anytime Mitsuru's dad is on screen. Again, the bitterness and restraint common to both makes this jive pretty well.
You accessed our database, didn't you?
Mitsuru's traditionally composed aura, brought to us formally by Tara Platt, now shows up as this eccentric, obsessive new accessory store owner.
The more I study, the more I realize there's so much I don't know.
A few of these are a bit weird, but not as weird as Yuri Lowenthal, the protagonist's old voice, now instead representing Yukari's dad.
Anyway, thanks for listening.
Moving on.
It's almost like the original voice actors grew up and are now just standing proudly in the background while a new generation takes flight. Except for Shinji's dude. Man, that guy's gotta stop signing up for these roles. He just ends up getting shot over and over and over.
Any veteran Persona fans, did you miss the old voice cast? I'd love to hear your opinions.
There's more voiceover in Reload as well, and that makes a huge difference. In the PS2 version, we generally had the same social links, but very little voice acting.
Did you know that in the original release, the only fully voiced social link was death? It's true. Other than death,
Only the max level social links were supplied with voiceover. Since the C's squad were all fully voiced in every major scene, even back in 2006, it starkly contrasted to always having to read through the also ran social links, as if that part is just a bland graphic novel. Here, you get a dedicated actor for each of these important relationships to further immerse you in the many emotions that each of the individuals experience, whether it's the shady dishonesty of Tanaka,
very good. You're feigning interest well.
the gruff, sometimes drunken, but sincere monotone of the monk.
When I go home, I don't know what to do with myself. Oh, I just come here and drink every night.
Or the genuine innocence and earnesty of a grade school kid.
Hey, what do you want to do next? It's your turn, okay? You get to pick.
Voice acting makes a difference. It ensures that the quality gap between your core party members and the fellow sojourners across the town is narrowed considerably, making the whole game world much more tightly knit and giving you more incentive to spend time with the community you'll be a part of for the next 100 hours. Given that there's tons of stressful situations,
my chest!
Intense moments of conflict.
Wait, whoa, your hand! What the hell happened? You're bleeding!
What's wrong with you? Can't you mind your own business?
And situations that will either be awkward.
Who's that she's with?
He's just a kid. He must have misunderstood.
Delightful.
I believe you. Which means I must work even harder.
Or shockingly serious.
You don't think I'll ever hold a candle to my twin brother, do you?
The supporting NPCs are far better encapsulated here than they were in older Persona games.
Is this an emergency? A serious emergency?
And it makes sense. I mean, imagine if YouTubers only communicated via text boxes with only minor portrait changes and a small smattering of voice samples mixed in while you were there trying to get engaged in the content.
Listen. Thanks. So, please like and subscribe.
Doesn't quite have the same impact, does it? Seriously though, chatting with all you great fans about RPGs like the Persona series and Final Fantasy, it really makes me smile. So feel free to like and subscribe if you want to join our small community.
Continuing with this topic, actually hearing what someone's going through makes a lot of difference going through social links as emotional as these. When you converse on Sunday afternoons with a teenager who is facing his own soon approaching death, every hack, cough, and weary smile just stabs you in the heart.
Damn it. What did I do to deserve this body?
Yuko's actor nails the tomboyish gruffness that matches her role as training coach, especially when you progress to the stage when you're training young kids to be track stars.
I'm your coach now, so you stop running when I tell you to stop.
And then it softens up as you go even further, and she confides her hopes, dreams, and insecurities to the protagonist.
Those are my true feelings, and I hope you feel the same.
If you stick with Bebe's story until the end, you get over what initially feels like a high-pitched, overexcited for the sake of it voice.
Japanese sweets are très oishi. Japanese culture is so fascinating.
And realize that this guy really does love Japan, even overcoming an abusive uncle in an attempt to stay there.
If I return to my own country now, I would never forgive myself. I want to stay here, in Japan, even if I have to eat dirt.
There's so many more examples too, across so many social link characters. Please stay tuned for an in-depth talk about each of them. But if you're new to the Persona series and in-depth development of the cast is what you really like, then don't even think twice. Buy Reload immediately. Do it!
Even the also-ran characters have their own fully developed character arcs. I'm serious, there's this high school girl who's really into this guy, but he literally decides the best course of action is stringing her along before she realizes he has no personality because he missed every chance he had to talk to her. And before long, he's stalking her, leering at her from the station catwalks and being a creep. Even after it's obvious she is long passed over him. A precocious kid is constantly frustrated with the styles of her teacher, not understanding their methods and wild swings of enthusiasm and boredom at all, before finally piecing it all together at the end. And most prominently, we have the shy man and calm woman. He's a typical wussy guy who won't ever say or do anything to make the relationship prosper, yet this calm, steady woman is there with him, on that same bench, every day, just accepting whatever he says. Until finally she doesn't, and he's freaking out. But this time, love prevails. And even the coming of Nyx doesn't seem to interrupt their day-to-day. While others are freaking out about the end of the world or joining cults, they're just zoned in on that bench as the winter approaches. I could go on, like detailing the epic story of this stray cat, which a young boy desperately wants to take in, but I'll cut it here. Just Keep your eyes open for all these cool mini-stories as you go through the game. It truly helps strengthen the overarching narrative, especially as the stakes raise.
What really makes Reload stick its landing when it comes to character development, though, are all the extras thrown in.
While adhering to an exclusively male, heterosexual protagonist means no romantic social links with the fellow young men, the game still gives you added avenues to bond with each of them. In these added sub-stories, you help Akihiko defend himself from punks on the street, and subsequently learn about why Aki strives so hard to be as strong as he is, given the dark, otherwise rarely touched on memories involving his sister, and subsequent failures to protect those he cares about. You'll see a real soft-heartedness behind his stoic manner when he donates his family foodstuffs to the party and finds meaning behind this medal from his past.
This medal doesn't really belong to anyone. It's from a long time ago.
Shinjiro gets some much-needed moments of humor, as he does everything to hide the fact that he enjoys cooking shows, adores Koromaru, and is willing to share his skills and begrudging respect with the hero. Shinji's interactions really stand out to me, and Atlus did a fantastic job on expanding him during his brief time as a main party member. Even gardening with him, he takes that senpai mantle seriously, giving sound advice, which he rarely sees the need to do. You're able to better explore Shinjiro's inner psyche, understanding the turmoil he faces, whether or not he should return to school and fulfill his friendship obligation with Aki and Mitsuru, against his grim reality that constantly reminds him that whether he does nothing or everything he can, it's not really going to matter in the end.
Since it's you, I guess I'll say it. I ain't gonna live much longer.
I can't imagine going through this, but the game gives us a bleak picture of what it might be like. At this point, when the protagonist gets a choice whether or not he should convince Shinji to return to school, I honestly thought there was a path where his fate could be altered, or at least have his role in the plot extended.
Damn, you really don't mince your words, do you?
This is a possibility in P3 Portable with a female protagonist, which I know many fans are miffed isn't included here, so I was bummed out to find that nothing changes, regardless of your choice. But at the time, it felt like a weighty decision. Ken looks up to the protagonist as a role model, and it's adorable to hear his childlike wonder sneak through as he rambles about Phoenix Featherman R, finding out that he named his pet hamster Hamburger, or when he gushes about how awesome that high-octane superhero movie was.
That was so cool! Did you see the part where Amoeba Man gets captured? And then the part where he was in the underground prison but used Morse code to call for help, and how they had him tied up, but he managed to shoot out a laser beam just in the nick of time, and then the bad guys...
Just as it's admirable how far he's willing to go, like investigating that bar in a dark alley just to find a thank you gift. Seeing the training sessions between Ken and the hero secures the idealization he has for the player character. And as a gamer, it helps build a sense of obligation to train and safeguard this kid, who deserves a shot at a happier life. It even provides some pretty good life advice in general.
I've made so many memories, both fun and difficult ones. But I feel like living means carrying it all with you and moving forward.
Learn from everything and then just go. It's only bad if we linger on a memory for too long. And that's true for everyone, regardless of age.
Even the suspiciously friendly Ikutsuki shines, with tons of puns that even grade school children would cringe and roll their eyes at.
You'll get used to his lame jokes.
Well then, shall weekend this meeting?
What?
You know, because it's the weekend.
Shall week end the meeting?
Shall week end? Get it?
That doesn't even make sense. You aren't even keeping the words in their natural form, so this isn't even qualified as a pun anymore. My favorite is the command room video.
The monorail. I bet this subject would make a good one-liner.
Oh God, whoa.
The engine. That was an ingenious move. What is it with me today? I'm on a roll.
He really truly thinks he's funny. You gotta give it to him.
I should write all these down and show them off the next time everyone gets together.
Akutsuki is all revved up to impress teenagers with this. And this is just the beginning, the first step. Oh, he's gonna go to comedy night at the bar, and then Akutsuki's gonna go on a Japan-wide tour of shows, comedy shows, just doing all these puns and creating a millionaire lifestyle based on it.
Don't care for seafood? They also serve ground beef.
The guy can't make a good joke to save his life, but I think that makes him almost likable. It's just that...
Yes, I was chosen. I'm going to be the god of the new world!
Yeah, pretty harsh contrast there. It's a good reminder that we should never assume anything about anyone.
Finally, Ryoji gets his own sequence of private conversations with the hero. What begins as such a mundane, awkward experience where the two of them haul boxes to a storage room, and Ryoji feebly tries to impress the protagonist with, this. Oh, God. That was sad. It eventually becomes evident that, as death itself had lived inside the protagonist, he's developed a much closer bond to what living is, even showing concern for people like Junpei in a way no one else seems to have noticed.
Feels like he's forcing himself. I can see a hint of sadness when I look into his eyes.
The flourishing piano melody later on represents this much deeper understanding of the flow of life. As he also references in your final relaxing moments with him during the school trip. In what's probably the most introspective and philosophical social link in the game, Ryoji struggles contemplating what the point of creating bonds with people is, when none of them can ever last anyway.
For each person you connect with, it just makes saying goodbye that much harder. So, what's the point?
No matter what response you give, he isn't convinced that there's a single right answer, and maybe that's the point. What do any of us know about how life starts and ends? They reward the player all the way to the end with the distance they go with this one.
Let's not forget the women.
You didn't forget, did you?
Each of them are fantastic role models for young players, showing courage, gentle humanity, and fierce leadership, even though those elements are in different amounts within each. Much respect for all three.
Persona.
Does Aigis count? It's just another one of those bizarre Japanese RPG things, isn't it?
Regardless, whether or not you go for the full romance route or keep the relationships completely platonic, the game provides you with satisfactory build-ups to each of the female party members.
Thank you.
Which wasn't the case in the original. You were forced to either date everyone in order to max the social links, which makes the protagonist look like a manipulative, egotistical scum of the earth, which still kind of shows up here.
You deserve some time together?
But not in an overly exposed way, thanks to Junpei.
Whoa, that display over there looks like it can fall over any moment now. Someone's gonna get hurt if we don't fix it right now. Like, right now.
I just love that line reading. He gives so much extra enthusiasm to the most banal detail possible in an attempt to deter attention away from the protagonist.
Someone's gonna get hurt if we don't fix it right now. Like, right now.
Never thought I'd praise Junpei, of all people. But in the old game, if you didn't want this to blow up, you had to stop your social link halfway through before it leveled up to romance, so that you didn't cause the links to be reversed or otherwise negatively impacted with the core girls. It's so much better here, and it paints a much better picture of Atlus as a whole. You don't have to be invested in a romantic relationship with someone in order to fully understand and appreciate them. This way, you will be able to slowly, painfully, and with amazing courage deal with Fuka's awful cooking, and be that consistent, supportive friend she has been seeking for so long, even if cats themselves flee at the sight of her, handiwork. It's cool how she's able to build and construct stuff, even a new pair of headphones for the hero, but is, at first, pretty useless at skills that females traditionally practiced in the past. You'll learn when to hug Yukari, and when not to be a sexist prick.
What's that supposed to mean? So what if I'm a girl?
And if successful, you'll slowly break down her huge, understandably high wall of defenses, given her mother's past, and convince her that, yes, it's okay to have to rely on others from time to time.
And Mitsuru, as we all expected, simply confesses her love for the hero.
I said that's enough! I won't let you insult him!
In front of this pretentious prick.
If you insult him, you insult me!
In broad daylight.
You can't compare to him at all!
At a public movie theater.
I want to be with him. Now and forever.
Yeah, I was as surprised as a lot of you were. I expected Mitsuru to be last in line when it comes to confessing such a deep, sacred, private emotion. But that's what I love about the climaxes of all these social links. They're so unpredictable, and it makes you really want to get to the culmination of each one to see how it finishes up.
It's not just these fully fleshed out social links either. You're granted many more opportunities to just hang out with the crew at the dormitory. It's moments like Mitsuru confiding that she struggles with presenting an approachable demeanor while preparing tea for you, how she finds herself joining the masses with the temptation of fast food, Akihiko accidentally showing you footage of his rookie boxing bouts, and the mini study group sessions where unexpected revelations and tidbits of character growth pour out. There's even some bizarre humor here, like when Junpei is obsessed with this pencil and eraser. What the hell?
What's the big deal? It's just an eraser.
And eraser's corners are a special privilege reserved for the owner. A precious and fleeting source of euphoria.
Make some time for them one-on-one, and you'll get surprised by the fact that Junpei actually does read something, even if it's manga. Speaking of education, the school system setup Persona 3 presents you with brings up mini lectures about a myriad of topics. It's completely redone from the old game too, so even if you have an eidetic memory, you won't know the answers this time around. You'll brush up on grammar conventions, understand the relationship between electricity and resistance, and investigate the social disparity that a feudalistic system of government creates. But they cannot compare to these intimate, one-on-one, book club style interactions.
They are so thought-provoking. They delve into the minutiae of the human social condition, specifically highlighted in Aigis' book and her specific obsession with the human ass.
The main character says, that ass better not crack under pressure. Usually, people's asses are already cracked. Yours is as well, right?
The dialogue options are just mint. This doesn't have to be expanded upon. It's just 10 out of 10. A winner is you. This is the epitome of Persona 3 humor. There's just something about that deadpan delivery.
Usually, people's asses are already cracked.
The utter seriousness of Aigis' question and the subsequent responses you can pick from. Oh man, if you want something more emotionally substantial and less juvenile, you'll find it in the comfy, serene feeling that envelops you as you just spend time relaxing and combing Koromaru's fur, which expands into added bonus interactions that spring up between any of your social links whenever you take the cute pup out for a walk. The immersiveness comes in many different forms, be it humorous, heart-to-heart, or tragic, but all of it makes its mark on players' memories. Quality of life improvements, like the rewind feature, are a blessing. It makes it so you can freely charge through some social links. And if you're not satisfied with the decisions you made, you don't have a million save slots one day apart on the go. You can just rewind and make sure to do it better next time, which means you progress through the stories with consistency and are able to see the conclusions of more social links, even on your first playthrough.
Wouldn't this be amazing to have in real life?
Just imagine that power to be able to rewind something after screwing up royal, stupidly spilling and the subsequent swearing, all just magically repaired as if nothing ever happened.
But really, if we think about it, rewinding our lives would mean never learning what went wrong, because we'd go to the moment before the mistake happens. So we'd never learn and grow, because every time we'd make even one error, we'd just go back and erase it until we make a mistake again. For all we know, we'd be perfect, but unable to handle the slightest criticism. Maybe life's perfect the way it is.
The best part? All of this added attention you bathe your comrades in creates real improvements in their abilities, buffing their potentials with substantial upgrades that make every one of your favorite party members shine in combat. This wasn't in the original, and these are not tiny boosts either. Having Yukari's SP cost reduced by tons for her healing moves enables you to go all out on offense with the other characters, knowing she can use her party heal skills without breaking a sweat. You spend time with people, and, much like life, the game rewards you for it. Atlus did a fantastic job here by putting more focus on the people who star in the game, which is Persona 3's greatest asset.
It just makes sense. An RPG that stands the test of time does so because of its lovable characters.
So, you keep exactly those ingredients that make the characters shine, and you add more scenes so that fans have even more to enjoy, with voice acting that helps emote a greater bond between the protagonist and the world of characters that exist outside of all the dungeon crawling.
Young people always think the grass is greener on the other side.
There's no shortage of camaraderie bonding in Reload's arsenal, and the more you invest yourself in it, the better the payoff, whether it's in combat enhancements or just a comfy, healthy feeling when those moments arrive that involve the entire party, and especially when you reach the conclusion and interact with your favorite people one final time. Whether it's a comrade you met at school, a romantic interest you decided to invest in, a goodbye said in person, or through a handwritten letter, you end the game feeling that the events that took place mattered, and that's the sign of a well-constructed cast of characters.
Do it, Itis!
Persona 3 has a huge advantage over games like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth when it comes to how much reverence Atlus gave the source material in comparison to what Square Enix did. The Final Fantasy Remake trilogy, specifically Tetsuya Nomura, could learn so much from Reload. Oh man, I can't stress enough how important it is for a game that has so much fan love behind it to preserve the story. What's the most important part of an RPG? It's the story! There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Oh, God.
You can have the most captivating characters in the world, statistics, items, and equipment that are fun to use, battles that have cool systems and great enemy designs, but if the story doesn't grip you by building some stakes, putting characters in difficult, arduous situations, and making you care about the ultimate fate of the entire cast that you've attached yourselves to and the world at large, what's the point?
Persona 3 gets this.
The plot is linear to a fault, but it's complex enough and has its own twists and turns that grip players without going off into wild, convoluted tangents. There's no clouds flying through wormholes between realities and timelines. There's no Sephiroths summoning giant whisper armies, even though you supposedly wiped them out in the previous game. There's no multiple Aeriths swapping holy materia to make sure the Prime Aerith can still die but actually not die, at least not in Cloud's mind BS.
I got this.
Okay, Rebirth isn't that bad.
Its conclusion still has emotion welled up from long-time memories of Final Fantasy VII fans, and the gut punch you feel from thinking everything has changed to then actually no, creates a swelling of multiple emotions, even though part of that is screw the audience type of emotion. My point is firm though, that there's no sense of finality anymore. There's so much open-ended, widespread, multiple interpretation crap that robs the story of its original weight. Check out the full video if you're interested in my confusion and frustration with what is otherwise the best Final Fantasy VII experience out there.
But as for Reload's approach, well, think of it this way. What if they throw a complete curveball at the game's conclusion? Imagine if, well, I don't know, the hero just fakes out his death at the end.
Yeah, the ending still shows his inner monologue stating how he's getting tired, and the common thread is that he's looking sickly as you interact with everyone, building up that uneasy feeling. The entirety of the lead-up happens on the rooftop as he rests with Aigis. You make the choice. His eyes close. It's all very sad.
Oh, God.
Suddenly, Junpei makes some smart-ass remark like, "Hey, leader, you're sleeping through our promise!" And then Makoto just sheepishly gets up and smiles awkwardly, exclaiming, "Aw, shucks, I was just going to have a good nap." Cheesy sitcom music plays, and the party stands there and laughs together, while the fin scrolls across the screen. Aww.
How would you like that? It would take the whole theme of acceptance, especially the big ones like accepting one's fate or accepting death, and just take it, crumple it up, and throw it in the trash bin.
Actually, and huge spoiler alert for anyone who's anticipating reading the Persona 3 manga, the manga version actually suggests that this best case scenario kind of happened. But with how quickly it cuts off, it is all very ambiguous, and not as cheesy as I portrayed it.
That's an extreme exaggeration I just presented, but man, game companies are tampering with things way too much when they really don't need to.
Behold the true nature of reality.
Hey, shut up. Let's focus on our reality here for a second.
7 seconds till the end.
What it comes down to is, those precious gaming memories that you wanted to experience a second time, everything plays out how you remembered it. The antagonist motivations, that despairing, dreadful mood of January, the poignant, show-stopping moments of emotion and passion.
Medea? Burn in hell!
He's going to face it all alone!
No, he's not alone! I'm not letting him die!
The fate of everyone is cemented as if it was still 2006. It just looks prettier. Reload is the perfect fan purist game, right down to the smallest detail.
All right, let's do this.
As the party goes on vacation to Yakushima, you get an updated HD version of the ship arriving at the destination, promising a change of pace from all your dungeon crawling. The following failed romantic conquest mission of the boys is still hilarious, with inappropriately intense background music blaring at you. As the teens fail miserably to interact with female beachgoers.
Complaining about your boss. That might be fun.
That tragic hailstorm of lead, explosions, and carnage between Aigis' death and the protagonist, it's here, and it looks bloody fantastic, with all the anime flashing effects and neon colors the teenager within you yearns for. It's what your unflinchingly stubborn memory tells you the original looked like, even though the animation and effects here are a full generation richer and smoother. Those panic-driven, desperate words of advice from Yukari's father in the laboratory footage, you immediately feel how severe the situation is when scientists who attempted to manipulate the shadows fell quickly to their own hubris. I can't imagine myself in this situation, seeing a family member's imminent end from a laptop. And again, the voiceover effects and redone cutscenes put a stamp on how difficult this was for Yukari.
Dad? Dad?
For a detailed look at how good the voice acting and character representation is, check out the first video in this series. That spa bath scene, complete with multiple decisions you need to make in order to escape, lest Mitsuru unceremoniously executes you and your brethren, continues to be so absurdly hilarious for absolutely no real reason beside that absurdity that I can put into words.
Shut up, you dumbass! They'll hear you!
The hopelessness of your situation after Ryuji's Nyx explanation, it's even more foreboding here, as you drift around a deceptively peaceful port island, engulfed in a chilly, almost serene vibe blanketing the landscape and attempting to turn your attention away from the world that, yes, is going to perish, with those apathy syndrome people literally dropping comatose in the streets. This is again helped by the amazing voice work, which emphasizes Junpei's real fear.
What's the matter? Scared?
What the hell is wrong with you? You think this is a joke? This is death we're talking about here! Of course I'm scared!
Akihiko's shaken, but then restored will after Shinjiro's death.
I can't run away from who I am.
Yukari's calm resolve.
I just don't want to forget everything.
Fuka's renewed determination after speaking with the former bully Natsuki, who she saved from the dark hour. All of these scenes are retouched slightly with the script and delivered with force and panache by each of the voice actors to rekindle your own motivation for standing against this undefeatable force.
We're all scared. I'm scared too.
That tense gunfight between Mitsuru's father and Akutsuki, Shinjiro's sacrifice forced upon the party because of Takaya's absolutely delusional messiah complex, all of this swelling intensity, the tears, it's all there in its purest form for maximum impact and clarity.
This is how it should be.
Instead of whatever the hell this was.
That ominous, intimidating, hour-long final boss monologuing about the first 13 arcana as you struggle against an unavoidable destiny of death, preserved pretty much perfectly from the original game, with an almost identical version of Battle for Everyone's Souls pumping into your ears for 60 minutes. The varying degrees of humor, tragedy, and self-actualization that show up in the social links, you'll relive those from your childhood in its greatest form. Or, if you're younger, you'll experience them at their peak during your very first playthrough. You'll empathize with the bookstore couple as you learn about your connection to the school and deep heartache. Chihiro will instantly charm you with her adorable but subservient personality, generating affection that will rival the protagonist C's teammates.
The two of us can handle this, so you...
No, I can't allow that.
Fushimi.
All I have to do is clear my name, right? I can do something about it on my own.
Grandiose self-delusion and one-track mind of the Gourmet King somehow still draws you back in to check on him now and then, as, behind that thick veil, he's very self-conscious about his body and is desperately calling out for a friendly ear to help him sort through a messed-up past.
You're so wonderful. You have such a kind soul.
Now, did Persona 3 have some WTF moments that were just that wacky and bizarre? Yeah, sure.
Is there any good reason why Yukari and the protagonist get possessed by the Lover's Arcana in this hotel for no other reason than to be risque for the intended audience who plays the game? This just comes so out of left field, right in the middle of the dungeon, and it's never really explained. And why are just these two affected? Akihiko and Junpei are right there. Look, Junpei's commenting about the TV, and if there was a shadow inside it.
Is he referencing Persona 4? Now I'm curious. Between 3 and 4, which one is your favorite?
But yeah, none of this makes any sense. But then again, why do most people transmogrify into coffins and some random people get caught out in the open just to die and get torn apart by shadows?
What's happening to me?
Even for Japanese RPG standards, there's some highly unusual lore and script that could definitely benefit from more explicit explanation.
Now, not everything is cut and paste, or just some script revisions. With the appropriate actions, you can trigger some new changes, although admittedly, most of these are from the FES version of Persona 3 or Persona Portable.
Be a good friend to Junpei, encourage him to buy the flowers while Chidori's in the hospital, and help him sort out the grief of her subsequent death. And you open a possible future where her own self-healing powers mesh with the flowers she was laid to rest in and had imbued with her own power before, giving her a new lease on life and a much happier, though almost unable to believe it's happening, elated version of Junpei.
It is you. Chidori.
I'm a bit split on this though. Is Junpei's character growth stunted if everything just turned out great anyway? When his persona evolves, merging with Medea, and Chidori's memory manifests each time he gracefully strikes down an enemy, which is far more dramatic and awe-inspiring than his original theurgy move. That chokes me up, and it feels like the impact is lessened if she just comes back. Let me know your thoughts.
Hey, why are you crying?
Also, there's new requests to help save missing people that get trapped in Tartarus, and a couple of these are very important to accomplish, as, on rare occasions, they involve social link characters who will die, which will in turn forever freeze the social link you've been working so hard to expand if you fail to scale the tower in time. I wish they would have had more extra dialogue or plot details with these, especially considering they're among my favorite social links in the game. But it's an incentive to dungeon grind some more that definitely works. You even get new interactions with the main human antagonist, Takaya. Some of the most interesting dialogue choices surface here when you try to poke holes in his theories, while he in turn criticizes you for the exact savior complex he seems to bask in. It humanizes this tragic villain even more so than the old game, especially once you find out about his past, being subjected to human experimentation by the Kirijo group. The moments Takaya picks make sense too. He doesn't fear death, so why not meet up while a typhoon is raging outside? It's intriguing to listen to Takaya, seemingly well prepared for any response, but yet never making total sense, because, well, how can he? He doesn't understand kindness, love, or sympathy, or why anyone would sacrifice anything for others, because he hasn't had those basic human needs met. His voice only speaks of death, and while that's a key theme in Persona 3, the ending proves it's not everything. Great addition. Even bit players are given subtle new tweaks. Jin shows an even more extreme version of desperation during your final Strega boss encounter, literally jabbing himself with lethal poisonous drugs, simply to gain a temporary power advantage over you, painting him in an even more of an extremist role as the old game, as he gives literally everything for Takaya's vision.
He just doesn't give up.
Could they have jazzed things up a bit more? Or are there some missed opportunities? Sure, you could make that argument.
For example, I'm very glad they preserved all of the command room videos. These are light-hearted snippets that show the hidden insecurities and otherwise not obvious wants and needs of each of the main cast. But they are almost 100% by the book. There's no surprises if you watch these 15 years ago. Shinjiro tries to hide the exact same way when caught watching cooking shows. Akihiko uses the exact same beef pun while he practices the worst pickup lines in existence.
Maybe we could meet up there? Huh? Get it?
Fuka still giggles very disturbingly when applying an ab working machine onto her stomach. And Aigis still takes the exact same amount of time to infiltrate the protagonist's room. They really slacked off when it came to this. And being as there's only one a month, Atlus could have doubled these and given us more fodder to laugh at. Like, Keep these here as fan service, but give another recording that either puts different pairs of people together, or explores a whole other personality quirk, or a hardcore cringe or epic fail, because there is so much to work with here. Also, it was always weird to me how the big culture festival event gets interrupted by this random typhoon which just comes out of nowhere. They play up this whole arc with Yukari dressing as a maid, and except for the spy video, there's nothing else that comes of it. And this wasn't changed in Reload either. Persona 4 and 5 School Festival was a big deal, and it was among the most memorable social events in both of those games. So in my opinion, this was a huge missed opportunity. Instead, you're just doing banal chores, cleaning up the school and dealing with awkward girl crush problems while pathetically attempting a stand-up comedy routine.
You know what they say, early to bed, early to rise. There you go, we got a top quality one this time. Kinda depressing, though.
Like, come on! Let's get some of that cross-dressing action and dramatic confessions of love! And just a final quibble of mine, I hate how the hero clings to life for over a month to honor the promise of seeing the C's group one more time, but only gets to visibly see Aigis because the rest of the team is too slow on the uptake. They should have took a cue from the movie version and let his last memory and sight be filled with everyone he bonded with, the people who actually made him want to live and gave him something to protect, which I think is what the answer to life's greatest question is, at least for this protagonist.
Life's greatest question.
There isn't any big, completely out of context threads or changes that completely alter how we view a character, an event, or a location. Just subtle, discrete additions, changes or nods that complement everything in a way that gamers' past selves would have enjoyed seeing back then. This is how you revisit a well-received tale of gaming past.
Yeah, come on.
I'd expect nothing less.
We doing this?
Don't be so reckless. You won't have enough stamina.
Uh-oh, my SP is almost tapped out.
And I am damn tired myself. I gotta binge drink. Because that's healthy.
Persona 3 tells me as such with all of its energy drinks.
Now, I'm refreshed, and I can power through this video! Reload's dungeon crawling is a perfect refresh of the original, keeping its core intact.
Ambushes? Check. Player advantage?
Yep.
Hey, there's a treasure chest.
Randomized floors with dungeon crawling where every chest is there to be looted and you can upgrade characters constantly on the fly with full heals, legendary loot, and superior customization, including beachwear accessories?
Abso-friggin-lutely.
Tartarus remains as omnipresent and intimidating as it did in the original, with an almost identical number of floors. But it's the quality of life improvements that make downing this 100-hour monster smooth and mild. Being able to choose your allies' actions directly was a smart move. I'm sorry for all the Persona 3 purists out there who swear by the old version's method of only controlling the protagonist while being limited to applying preset strategies for the rest of your squad, but this would have alienated a large chunk of new fans, or fans from recent entries like Persona 5, who are acclimated to having full control over your party's actions. The shift system borrows from Persona 5's baton pass as well, which is very handy in that it lets you continuously pass off to a character who has an element a shadow is naturally weak against, knocking foes down as a cooperative unit, instead of needing to use the protagonist for multiple persona switches and spells that would exhaust his SP quickly. This is especially viable if you use a multi-target attack and miss one enemy. You can shift to someone else to splurge on the SP, instead of exhausting one character. Even Strega uses this, which I thought was awesome. Though, I wish more of the boss shadows made the most of these strategic layers. It would have made for more complex and unpredictable encounters.
Look at how you squander your potential. It's beyond comprehension.
What makes much more of a difference, though, is the removal of the awful stamina system from the original game.
Even back in 2006, this was a poor mechanic that deserves all the scrutiny it gets. You're supposed to be concerned about saving your SP and making the most of each night as you go to Tartarus.
Don't be so reckless. You won't have enough stamina.
But it's pretty damn tough to do that when, after half an hour, your party literally gets sick and tired of it. They get weak, getting a whole bunch of damage done to them and missing their attacks. It's just not a fun combat experience. It made the entire process a chore, and the whole SP thing a moot point. What's more, you could just hack the system by sleeping in class, or even taking a piss to improve your status to good, or even great. You relieved yourself. Okay?
What the hell went down in that restroom?
Does taking a leak really elevate our health to a next level? In Reload, that's all tossed. You are only limited by your ability to conserve your special attacks and use items resourcefully. If you prepare well beforehand by raiding vending machines for a couple weeks, you can get a ton of drinks that will restore your party and let you go as long as you want without wasting days of social link time.
Such a good message to send to kids, don't you think? Let's all just haul in a bunch of pop or energy drinks and crush it all at once past midnight when the demons come out. That'll prepare you. And if you have to take a leak, who am I to stop you? Just go and relieve yourself and you'll be feeling good, even great. Oh, this game, it's just addiction galore.
Persona doesn't just promote binge drinking though. There's a healthier approach in the new gardening feature that over time creates powerful health and SP restorative veggies to help you grind perpetually. The game retains amazing item utility, wherein you can use gems to initiate knockdown attacks and save your energy, or utilize common sense, using freeze attacks to guarantee critical hits. I've always enjoyed the flexibility of Persona's battle system, and Reloads is a tour de force in Persona combat. Another feature that stimulates progression are clock doors, which enable you to skip a ton of grinding, instantly leveling up 2 of your party members to catch up to the protagonist level, and thus encouraging you to swap more often between the members, as you know they can all stay balanced. And it serves a double purpose, letting you stay in Tartarus longer, since you can swap confidently between the party as some get tired. This means you can experience more of the character's strengths, weaknesses, movesets, and strategies, instead of relegating half of your party to a pretty much useless state for the whole game. It helps bring more weight and emotion to the plot when you've experienced the game with all 9 of your party members on the front lines, instead of just 4 of them. While you scale Tartarus, even basic shadow types that chase you around are reshuffled into weird varieties. We all know about the rare ones that leave behind so much extra loot, but that's nothing compared to these hilariously giant rare hand things that, depending on the party you have, can be easy to track down, and just let you absolutely wreck the leveling system if you successfully kill it. Some of them feign fear, but then try and stab you in the back, sneaking up and ambushing you with a dash from behind. Others are so pissed off, they just charge at you, but they can't reorient themselves, making it an easy ambush. Next are these dark rooms, where shadows can't see what they're doing, which actually gives you a huge advantage. And even drunk shadows that seemingly have no goddamn clue what's going on.
Those aren't my words attempting to be funny or something either. Look! They're drunk! I seriously thought they just put this in as a joke. Imagine if that was a legitimate status effect in the original game.
Just feeling drunk. You'd enter every battle either already knocked over or dizzy. But I guess underage drinking wouldn't be a good move by Atlus, or any game developer. Although they almost went that far in Persona 4. Thank God that alcoholic monk didn't stop by during this sequence.
Oh, where's my drink?
If you want more challenge than drunk blobs, Tartarus features new monad passages, which are stretches of doors that contain tougher than usual shadows. I know this was present in the expanded PS2 versions, but it's implemented throughout Tartarus instead of being its own separate set of floors. Pursuing them guarantees some rare loot in each chapter of the game. And it also gives die-hard plot fanatics some extra insights into the weavings of the experiments, Kirijo history, and shadow manipulations that were taking place a decade prior. There's other tweaks too, like how the Reaper follows you up from floor to floor if you trigger him.
I can't believe this!
To balance out these tougher challenges, a new mechanic, theurgy, is introduced, and stylishly well, I might add, in the game's early stages. I always disliked how useless Yukari is during the prologue fight, how, despite being a member of SEAS, she can't even use her evoker, just panicking and getting tossed aside. Atlus gives her redemption by turning the tables, in which the protagonist suffers a rare poor combat performance, forcing Yukari to make use of this all-new limit break type power.
Take that!
The enhanced combat gear and the theurgy itself even gets its own new cinema scene, complete with slightly altered costumes for each of the heroes, to emphasize how it's not going to play out exactly the same as it did before. I enjoy how the theurgy builds according to how well you adapt each character's best strengths. You may not absolutely need to heal your party, but Yukari will build her gauge faster if you do so. It encourages the protagonist to switch between personas frequently to build his, and rewards the player's buffing of Akihiko. Just subtle wrinkles that can alter your strategy. Also, how perfect is it that Aigis retains her Orgia mode for her version of this new mechanic? The devastation is awesome, and it retains the overheating drawback that could play a big role in longer boss battles. You can completely take charge of combat situations if you manage your theurgy correctly too. In this boss shadow battle, I had Shinji use his boost move that cuts his HP in half in exchange for a one-time intense strength buff, and then unleashed his theurgy move on it, which is the most edgy, teen angsty cinematic imaginable. That's one of the best things about theurgy. Reload isn't going to wow you with graphical effects, but the stylish anime flavor drips off the screen, especially here, when Shinjiro absolutely obliterates the thing with it. Check it out! Trophies just popping up everywhere because of that attack. And just a heads up for any new players, put Shinji in your party as often as you can once he joins, and attempt to build a rapport with him at the dorm as well. There's so many reasons for this, but just trust me, it'll enhance your overall experience of Persona 3 if you invest in Shinji! Even the aesthetic changes are welcome. While it's not a tour de force in PS5 graphical power, like I said, in fact, I'm certain it looks identical on the 10-year-old PS4. The added lighting effects, more variety, and pop in the different Tartarus blocks, and extra details are welcome as you travel up the tower. The fan favorite Mass Destruction still shines as a battle theme that digs into your brain the more times you hear it. I especially appreciate the inclusion of the whole entire second verse, which we were robbed of in the original release. It's got some dope lines like,
"Fears cut deep within the gun wounds. You can put your fate, destiny into the tomb. Hardest thing to do is changing who you are now to who you wanna be soon."
It's so edgy. It's abundantly adolescent and absolutely emboldens the target teenager audience it's going for. This glorious rap is supplemented with "It's going down now." A brand new construction from Lotus Juice that, honestly, I like even better than Mass Destruction, especially this part.
Bring it back, please. All that moves are making all you like dance floor and doing this beat down and probably wish that you could fast forward.
Yeah, I don't even know what the hell Lotus Juice is saying in this song. I just know that the beat and the pace is fire!
Bring it back, please. All that moves are making all you like dance floor and doing this beat down and probably wish that you fast.
Is that it? I have no friggin' idea. I could just look up the lyrics, but it's been a fun pastime of mine since I got into the Persona series
to try and decipher the Japanese turned English lyrics on my own. It's more fun that way. Seriously though, Persona games have even more battles than other mainstream series like Final Fantasy. I'm glad they took the Persona 5 Royal route and included 2 fully distinct themes that are each over 3 minutes long to help fight the monotony. It sure as hell is better than having a 15-second loop repeated for 40 hours.
Now, are the additions perfect? Nope.
They could have dressed up the visuals a lot more. It's nice that it's 60 frames per second, but this game and cast deserve even more detail and animation. While the soundtrack as a whole remains spectacular, they didn't do anything new, and some of the selections are real stinkers. Especially this theme, as you're on what should be an exciting full moon mission involving the train.
Let it go, let it out, let it go, let it out. Take a deep breath, deep breath, deep breath, deep breath. Lay low, lay high.
Like, what the hell am I listening to? Oh, Lord, that's bad. As you progress, you'll become accustomed to the guardian shadows that appear during roadblocks, which are meant to be very arduous clashes. But before this, as you're spending time and identifying every regular shadow's weakness, there's no reason to use your amazingly powerful theurgy moves on them. And you can hold your full charge indefinitely until you get to these boss shadows. Then, you simply reduce the enemy defense or buff your power, especially if you have Fuka's theurgy filled, and then you just lay waste to the guardian shadows with these theurgy moves, which, oh yeah, can't be blocked, guarded against, or absorbed by the enemy, even if the character's natural theurgy element is one that shouldn't otherwise work against the shadow. Some theurgies even have added effects like high chance of freezing, which means another critical hit and all-out attack.
Maximum firepower!
Look at this chump. He just barely started his playbook using this super buff move, but he's already one turn away from being dead. I wailed on him so hard at the beginning. So it doesn't matter. Even in the rare cases where the shadow has no weaknesses, meh, you can just use Rakunda to reduce the defense, and then you spam theurgies until the thing dies.
It's a win for the team! All right. Good job, everyone!
You might say it's my own fault for being cheap, but the game's constantly encouraging it. There's flashing, colorful meters on the side of the screen perpetually during battle, rewarding me with serotonin every time it moves up. You want to use this!
Another way you can abuse the theurgy system is keeping them in check until you find a rare shadow, which gives you an easy way to defeat an enemy which might otherwise be hard to hit or not have a weakness, and giving yourself tons of extra money and experience. Also, the new version is much more generous with teleports. Not only can you find them on many of the floors randomly as you go upwards, Fuka can transport you back to the highest floor you reached, even after you go back to the first floor where you can save your progress. There's much less of a chance of you getting wiped out via getting ambushed.
Huh? Leader, say something, please!
Or accidentally triggering the Reaper by wandering around too much. In addition, there's this regular clock you can access in the entrance that does a full heal. And while you need to use Twilight Fragments to activate it, the game hands them out like candy from a parade float. You see them all over the ground in Port Island, you find them at school, you get rewarded with dozens of shards simply from talking to your social links. They can literally be found on any random floor by smashing these loot spires, or guaranteed to be found if you find a dark zone. So there's another handicap that stifles the difficulty. In the old game, you would be risking a lot by staying longer than your stamina allows.
Yuri is low on stamina. Retreat could be a viable option.
especially when the gatekeepers show up. And even if you made it back to the entrance, you didn't get a chance to fully heal yourself. And in that game, you wanted to go as far as you could, because any extra night you spend in Tartarus is a night you can't boost your stats or level up your social links. It made you even reconsider what accessories to wear. Here, even first-timers can pretty much bomb through an entire block of Tartarus, exploring, fighting, zooming through 20 or so floors, beat the gatekeepers, and go through optional monad doors and buffed up shadows, and get to the next dead-end barrier without needing more than one night to play through it all.
Which also doesn't make sense, because isn't it just the Dark Hour?
Even advanced players who go through the game flawlessly need more than 1 hour to fight through all the shadows, get all the loot, beat all the guardians, and get to the next barrier. Look at this! August 9th, beginning at 52 hours and 36 minutes. By the time I'm done friggin' around, collecting loot, running into dead ends, finding weaknesses, making sure Koromaru is settled in and feels like part of the damn team, it's almost 4 hours later!
Wouldn't it be like 3:45 in the morning right now? How? How do the teenagers function this late?
Even the game explicitly states how much more tired humans get, even those who can function in the dark hour.
No way does 1 hour last that long. But I digress.
Now that I'm on the topic of time, if I abuse the grandfather clock mechanic, I could use Fuka's literal game hacks to find escape routes, keep shadows away from me while I run, and raise all my stats before any tough battles. Constantly. Look at this. Without her defense boost skill, these attacks would have absolutely wrecked me. But meh, I'll just shake off that huge demon horned power strike off like it's nothing. Together, these additions almost negates the point of starting a new game plus, because you can max your social stats and social links, which require those high social stats, even if you start from scratch.
I'm not complaining. It saved me 100 hours, but still, too easy.
Finally, just as an old man shakes fist at Cloud pet peeve, I hate that the protagonist is limited to the standard one-handed sword for all of his weapons. His basic attack is just so blasé, it's so basic. It's like an even less cool version of Junpei. The old game gave him literally half a dozen options, including bows, boxing gloves, battle axes, and claymores, and it helped accentuate the special wildcard quality of the hero. Not to mention, until now, he was the only Persona protagonist to deftly handle many different armaments.
Holding infinite possibilities.
But are all of these easy features really such a big deal? Nah.
Persona 3 still offers tons of difficulty options, which will make resource management much tougher. If you want to keep it as tough as you remember, you can. So it's a pretty weak argument. Still, the mechanics could have done with some polish. If Theurgy wasn't able to be held indefinitely, if it functioned more like Final Fantasy VII's limit breaks and had to be used in said battle, maybe that would have helped.
Persona 3 Reload is a game that will satisfy any RPG fan, whether they're a new player or a millennial veteran. The story and characters hold up well to this day.
Both elements are expanded upon, but in ways that make sense, and that don't swerve the narrative to and fro. Reload will also not disappoint anyone who cut their teeth on Persona 5. This is the most accessible Persona game yet. Dungeon crawling mechanics feature changes that go easier on newbies, which also helps balance the characters more effectively. And the combat itself borrows directly from Persona 5 in several ways, like the shift system, and the fact that it gives more agency to players' decisions, instead of AI commands. One quibble that especially hardcore players may object to is the admittedly easier overall difficulty in the base normal mode. Schedules are easier to maintain, with Tartarus being able to be scaled much faster, and additions let you find so much extra loot and experience. Theurgy can be stored indefinitely to make sure you have it for the monad door bosses or guardians, and there's so many ways to hack the system using items and clocks. But expert players, I'd wager, would argue that you'd use those tricks out of necessity if you were keen on actually beating the game on merciless difficulty.
And I'm no expert. This is just one gamer's opinion. I want to hear from you. What did you think of Reload? Was it the game that got you into Persona for the first time? Are you a long-time fan who is eagerly awaiting it? My favorite part of YouTube is hearing your thoughts.
So please share them down below. It's always good to see you, gamers. Take care of yourselves. And remember, you are all the protagonists in your own stories. So make it count. You deserve it.